This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Roger Stone, and this is the Roger Stone Show at 77 WABC Radio. We are the crown jewel of radio. I want to remind you before the end of the show, yes, I'm going to reveal my own mother's Hungarian stuffed cabbage recipe. It's a complicated recipe, unlike most of the simple recipes that I bring you every weekend. At Margot Katzimatidis' suggestion, I'm working hard on a 77 WABC cookbook of all the best recipes, and that's in the works. So grab a pen and paper and be ready for that a little later in the show. Joining me now is Jesse Banal. He is a criminal defense attorney. He is a partner in the Banal Law Group, a graduate of George Mason University, also of the Anton Scalia School of Law at the George Mason University. You've seen him on Fox and elsewhere in the media. He is a very articulate a proponent of freedom and a fair judicial system based in the rule of law, and we are honored to have Jesse with us now.
Thanks so much for having me, Roger.
I really appreciate your doing the show today because what's unfolding in New York City is unlike anything we have ever seen before. Jesse, you've been in some tough legal fights. Before the show, we were talking about your representing a number of the folks who worked for Senator Rand Paul. And in that context, you came across the guy who ended up as the chief prosecutor in my case, a guy by the name of, well, he says it, Jonathan Kravis. Kravis is interesting in that when the FBI in my case admitted in pre-trial motions that they had never inspected the computer servers at the DNC and had relied entirely on CrowdStrike, a third-party independent but partisan IT group, for the assertion that there was evidence that the DNC had been the target of an online hack, of which the government has never produced any evidence whatsoever. Mr. Kravis quickly filed a surreply with the court in which he said that they had additional proof that hack took place. At the time, of course, we didn't know that Sean Henry, who was the chairman or the president of CrowdStrike, just happened to be Robert Mueller's deputy at the FBI, had testified under oath to the House Intelligence Committee that his report included no such proof whatsoever. So you've come up against this corrupt prosecutor. Tell me, I guess, off the top, how you feel about this New York trial and the way it's going so far.
Well, Roger, and I think one other just important thing to remember about Jonathan Kravis is who he worked for. When we ran up against him, he was working for Jack Smith. And their office handled that case so poorly that the judge dismissed one of our co-defendants from that case for prosecutorial misconduct because Mr. Kravis and his colleague violated that defendant's Fifth Amendment rights in front of the grand jury. So I agree with everything that you've said, and it's just absolutely preposterous that he was able to represent the United States. It's a stand on our justice system, what they did to you and what he's done to other people. As far as what's going on in New York right now, we see the continued politicalization of our justice system right now, which is absolutely disgusting. We have recusal rules in this country for a reason. I have actually never known a judge ever who has made a political donation when he has been on the bench because he didn't want it to affect his impartiality. Not only did this judge donate to Joe Biden, President Trump's political rival, and then refuse to recuse himself, but of course, as we all know, his daughter is financially interested in his handling of this case, is making money hand over fist over the way that her father is handling this case. And it's not supposed to just be bias itself that requires the judge to recuse himself, but the appearance of bias. We as Americans have a right to know that when a judge gets on the bench, when the judge puts on that black robe and picks up his gavel, at that point he's put aside his personal identity, he's put aside his personal politics, and he's going to dispense justice. He's not going to do politics wearing a bad black dress. But unfortunately, this judge has, I think, quite frankly, one of the biggest stains on American jurisprudence in 250 years, has decided to do politics from the bench, not justice, and that is disgusting.
The other night, about a week ago, I had the opportunity to travel to Venice, Florida for the premiere of General Michael Flynn's biographical new documentary, which is entitled Flynn. I cannot recommend this to people highly enough. You can go to flynnmovie.com to determine where and how you can see it. It was very moving. In fact, it was gut-wrenching, mainly because my wife and I have been through so many of the same things that the Flynn family was put through. But more importantly, it explains not only what was done to General Flynn, who to my mind is one of the greatest American patriots who ever lived, but why it was done. It puts it in context to tell you why it was done. Mike Flynn was essentially slated for destruction because he refused to lie to Congress, because he would not bring his assessment of the dangers of Islamic terrorism in line with others in the intelligence community. And for that reason, he had to be destroyed. General Flynn has a $50 million lawsuit pending against the federal government. Jesse, if I'm correct, you are among the lawyers representing him in that matter. Am I right about that?
Yeah, Roger, you are. I've been proud to represent General Flynn for a few years now, and I was at that Venice premiere, actually sitting right behind you. And you're right about the movie. It's a remarkable movie. This lawsuit is critically important for trying to get some accountability in our justice system, and so we believe that it's a very strong lawsuit to show that this man was railroaded through a justice system where the prosecutors and his original criminal defense attorneys, unfortunately, were not candid with the court when they said that there were no other deals that were part of the plea, something that is always asked in any criminal proceeding. And they did. They tried to leverage General Flynn by threatening his son, and tried to get him to admit to something that he didn't do by them saying, if you don't, we just might throw your son, who just had his own son, so General Flynn's grandson, we might just throw him in prison for a while. And I don't know a parent that could resist the opportunity to save their own child. But I couldn't agree with you more that General Flynn is not only one of the greatest patriots our country has ever produced, he's also just one of the greatest gentlemen that you would ever have the opportunity to meet.
Yeah, he's absolutely a man of honor. It's interesting because he and I were both on trial in the exact same D.C. courthouse, both essentially targeted for destruction by the same people. We'd actually never met because during the Trump reelection campaign, I was under indictment. So was he. We had talked on the phone. We had exchanged text messages. The first time I ever met him was on January 5th. It was about a 15-minute meeting. It was actually in Alex Jones's room. No, it was not a war room at the Willard. If there was a war room at the Willard, neither General Flynn or I know anything about it. We're ever in it. But Alex Jones had a studio set up in one of the rooms at the Willard Hotel. And General Flynn was leaving an interview. I was coming. It's actually the first time we ever met. I saw him one other time on the street, very briefly in that January 5th and 6th period. The claim by some on the internet that Stone and Flynn planned the January 6th riots is outrageous. Neither one of us we weren't involved in the efforts to delay the certification of the electoral vote, other than reading about it, nor were either one of us involved in any of the activities at the Capitol on the 6th. It's a shame that I have to say that, but there's a lot of propaganda information out there. On the Flynn case, Jesse, where will this case ultimately be tried? Should it get to trial?
That's a great question. Yes. So under the statute that we've brought the case under, the Federal Tort Claims Act, we get to bring the case where he lives. And since he lives in Florida, we get to have this case decided in Florida. Now, the government tried to get the case moved back to Washington, D.C. There's, no mystery as to why they would rather have this case litigated in Washington, D.C. rather than Florida, but they failed. And so now we're going to get this case decided in Florida, and specifically in the Tampa Federal Court.
That's encouraging. Somehow I think you're going to get a fairer trial in Tampa than you are in Washington, D.C. Look, lawyers, I've talked to many good attorneys about bringing a lawsuit against the government. They basically told them, because of the unique nature of my very, very clever indictment put together by Andrew Weissman. How do I know that? Well, at 6:11, the FBI stormed my home. At 6:06 in the morning. At 6:11, someone at CNN texted my lawyer, who did not yet know that I had been arrested, told them that I had been arrested. My lawyer said, "Arrested for what?" Whereupon she texted him my entire unsealed indictment, which would not be unsealed until 10:30 that morning by a magistrate in D.C. And the filing that CNN sent had no court markings or timestamps. It did have in the metadata tags the name of the person who wrote it, and therefore the name of the person who leaked it in violation of the law. That would be Andrew Weissman. The leaking of an arrest warrant, but particularly the leaking of a search warrant, is a felony. But the judge in my case could care less. So it is. I've seen the two-tier justice system up close. Jesse, what do you think of the New York trial so far?
Well, I mean, we'll see how things go. Right now, the judge is considering a motion to dismiss from the government, and we're going to let that process play out. And what I will say is that we need to have stronger laws in this country to protect people like General Flynn and you, who have been abused by a weaponized justice system that goes after people for politics. People like Andrew Weissman. Let's not forget that Andrew Weissman also wiped his cell phone when he worked for the Mueller special counsel probe. I think he may have done it more than once, claiming that he just accidentally forgot his password. This is somebody who has put people in jail for destroying government documents, and that's exactly what you do when you wipe a cell phone. This is a man who I truly believe thinks he is above the law, thinks that he is completely untouchable. There needs to be better laws passed for when people go out, prosecutors like Andrew Weissmann, and violate people's civil liberties, people like you and people like General Flynn, certainly people like President Trump. There needs to be a better opportunity to have accountability. We can't just rely on the Department of Justice policing itself anymore because they don't do it. And so as a result, you have prosecutors that think that they're above the law. That can't be our future as Americans.
No, actually, going back and look at it, I believe that Mr. Weissmann deleted the memories of the phones of 31 Mueller prosecutors right after it was announced that John Durham was going to investigate the origins of the Russian collusion hoax. What amazes me is the way he constantly, both on TV and in op-eds, points to the Enron case as if it is the gold standard of government prosecution, failing to mention that he was unanimously overturned after destroying Arthur Andersen, their accounting firm, and destroying the company, and destroying the lives of those convicted. He was unanimously overturned, and the judge tongue-lashed him for prosecutorial misconduct. Yet he continues to point to the Enron case as if it is some paracon of legal greatness. I wonder if he's delusional.
No, Roger, he's not delusional because here's the thing. He knows how many lives he destroyed, even though he was reversed by the Supreme Court. And so at the end of the day, the process is the punishment. You know that. You've certainly been through that. The process is the punishment. Prosecutors like Andrew Weissmann have full understanding of the fact that they can destroy people's lives without having to get a judge or jury to agree that that person is guilty or innocent, and that if it takes going all the way to the Supreme Court and takes years and years to do that, that is untold amount of money that people have to spend and tons of time where their reputation has been destroyed. Andrew Weissmann has taken full account of that, which is why we so badly need new laws that allow people like him to be held accountable.
He really starts his career in New York, essentially covering up the murders of Sammy the Bull Gravano. I know a number of families where family members were murdered, but no one was ever brought to justice due to that cover-up. It would be a very colorful book or documentary. Maybe we could call it, I don't know, Pitbull, the most corrupt prosecutor in American history. Maybe that's a project for another day. Switching, Jesse, if I could, for a moment to the Florida so-called documents case, Special Counsel Robert Hur, who was charged with investigating Joe Biden's illegal retention of classified and top-secret documents, read his report a couple times. He very clearly says that as a vice president and a U.S. senator, Joe Biden willfully retained documents that by law he was not entitled to have. Yet he escapes prosecution because he's old. I mean, seems strange to me. Meanwhile, in the question of Trump, whose lawyers continue to maintain that his actions are shielded by the Presidential Records Act, when the judge even implied that she might allow that consideration in jury instructions, Special Counsel Jack Smith went, pretty crazy. I've never heard of a situation of a prosecutor essentially threatening a judge in one of his filings, but that seems to be what he has done.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think that what the government and Jack Smith's office has done here is highlighted the disparity in justice based on your political affiliations, in this case in Florida. And I'll tell you that it's really remarkable that they think that they cannot prosecute Joe Biden but prosecute Donald Trump because effectively they've said because Joe Biden is senile. All the time they actually have recordings with Joe Biden talking about the classified documents, talking about the fact they knew that they were classified with his ghostwriter, despite the fact that even Rob Hur in his report said that there was at one point, in order to have deterrence for future potential defendants, that it wasn't necessary to prosecute Joe Biden because the government was already prosecuting President Trump. I mean, that's just something that hit me over the face when they said, we don't have to prosecute Joe Biden because we're already prosecuting Donald Trump. They are putting the disparity of the American justice system on display for everyone to see. You know, personnel is policy. I know that you know that. And when Merrick Garland appointed Jack Smith, another pit bull who would stop at nothing, certainly not the law and certainly not the facts, in order to pursue Donald Trump based on politics, and gave him an unlimited budget in which he spent millions and millions and millions of taxpayer dollars going after President Trump, and then found meek and mild special counsel Hur, who would spend just a little bit of money, do an investigation, have an interview, and then without spending, without reaching the full merits of the case, find an excuse to not bring a prosecution. Merrick Garland got exactly what he wanted from this process, and he was able to do it, saying, "Oh, look, we had special counsels looking at both cases," when in reality he knew that there would be a disparity, and that was his intention from go.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, this is the Roger Stone Show at 77 WABC. Don't touch that AM dial at 770. We'll be right back with more of criminal defense lawyer Jesse Benal in just a moment.
Get ready for Universal Epic Universe, featuring the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, and Super Nintendo World. Now open at Universal Orlando Resort. Tickets and packages on sale now at universalorlando.com.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
Lights, camera, innovation. Walt Disney Studios chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform the movie-making process. Together, we kept a remote production hub in Hawaii and sync with a team in California to bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. This is picture-perfect collaboration. This is Walt Disney Studios with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Shopping is hard, right? But I found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And he sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's so easy. Make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
Welcome back, folks. This is the Roger Stone Show. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Jesse Benal. He is a partner at the Benal Law Group and is currently representing General Michael Flynn in a legal action against the federal government, given the way General Flynn was treated. Jesse, I kind of wonder whether the fact that Prosecutor Fani Willis, Prosecutor and U.S. State Attorney General Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, Jack Smith, all of these people went to the Biden White House. All of them met with the White House General Counsel. All of them had meetings at the Justice Department. Is this not a racketeering conspiracy?
I think it is, and I think it is a violation of civil rights under color of law, which is already a federal crime. But when you have even state prosecutors that are going to the White House right before they decide to go after and pursue President Trump, there's no doubt everybody is in on the joke that the White House knows that the American people so badly want a return to President Trump, and they just absolutely can't stand Joe Biden. And so their only hope in their minds is to beat Donald Trump in the court system, or if they can't beat him, at least try to sideline him by making him spend weeks and weeks on in the courtroom rather than being out talking to the American people on the campaign trail. And, Roger, you're going to know this a lot better than me, but I don't think it's working. I think the American people are seeing right through it. I think that they know that these are all politicized prosecutions, and it has absolutely nothing to do with justice. None of these cases against Donald Trump have to do with people trying to pursue justice. In every single case, they're trying to destroy their political opponents through our legal system, and it's one of the biggest dangers to American democracy that we've ever seen.
It's really quite extraordinary. I agree with your analysis, though. I really think, once again, and this was also true in the so-called valuations trial, in which even the simplest voter could figure out that there was no victim. I mean, Trump borrowed money from banks, although he submitted what he thought the value of the collateral was. Each bank does their own appraisal, does their own due diligence. They decide to make the loan to Trump. Trump pays the loan back on time, and they make $40 million in interest. $40 million. Who was harmed? Where's the crime? There was no crime. People really saw through that case, but also that was because Donald Trump had the legal ability, since he was ungagged, to step out into the hallway and tell the American people his side of things. Now, Alvin Bragg, much like Judge Amy Berman Jackson in my trial, has the president gagged. So Michael Cohen can say whatever he wants to Politico yesterday, attacking Donald Trump. Stormy Daniels can savage Donald Trump in the media, but Trump is not allowed to defend himself well because his comments might taint the jury pool, of which, of course, there is no evidence. If nothing, this is the worst example of the two-tier justice system of all. This idea that if you're charged in a crime, you forfeit your First Amendment free speech rights, which is most definitely not true.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And matter of fact, what the founders were primarily concerned about when they wrote the First Amendment, they were concerned about prior restraints on speech. And that's what a gag order is. It's an injunction telling you what you can and cannot say. And it's bad enough when it's about issues that are already going to be discussed in the public square. It's especially bad when you are gagging a presidential candidate. The presumptive nominee for the Republican Party cannot discuss certain issues that are very much political issues that the American people are using right now to decide who to vote for. And the equal application of justice is an extremely big part of this election. There's no getting away from that. So to gag a presidential candidate is an absolute affront to the American Constitution. But what's going on is that you have these people on the left who think that there's a Donald Trump exception to the Constitution. We see this in not only the gag orders that they try to put him under, but trying to get around things like presidential immunity and executive privilege and any number of different constitutional issues that are out there right now. They want the courts to say, yes, under presidents who are willing to submit to the bureaucrats and let the bureaucrats call the shots, we agree that there should be presidential powers. We agree that there should be the First Amendment rights. But Donald Trump, as somebody who has stood up to the bureaucracy, you put a muzzle on him. You shut him up because he is dangerous to the power of the bureaucrats.
All right, I'm afraid we are out of time. I want to thank my guest, Jesse Benal from the Benal Law Group, who is currently representing General Michael Flynn, but has represented many other patriots. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show.
Thanks so much for having me, Roger.
Folks, you want to hang on because before the end of that show, we're going to have that recipe, my mother's very own recipe for Hungarian stuffed cabbage. We're in a Hungarian mood today. There are no great Hungarian restaurants in New York City anymore. They literally, I don't believe, exist. So you're going to want to tune in for that, get a pen and paper, and be ready, and we'll be right back.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel or that white chocolate mocha. Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Support comes from ServiceNow. We're for people doing the creative work they actually want to do. That's why this ad was written and read by a real person and not AI. You know what people don't want to do? Boring, busy work. Now with AI agents built into the ServiceNow platform, you can automate millions of repetitive tasks in every corner of your business, IT, HR, and more, so your people can focus on the work that they want to do. That's putting AI agents to work for people. It's your turn. Visit ServiceNow.com.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50, code listen50. T's and C's apply.
Hank's the family fixer, always with his tool belt. But living with prostate cancer, he needed help. He asked his doctor about Xtandi and enzalutamide. Xtandi 40 milligram tablets treats men with prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and responds to a medical or surgical treatment to lower testosterone. Xtandi may cause serious side effects: seizure, a brain condition called PRESS, allergic reactions, heart disease that can lead to death, falls and bone fractures, swallowing problems, or choking that can lead to death. Stop Xtandi and get medical help at once if your face, tongue, lip, or throat start swelling. Tell your doctor at once if you faint, have a seizure, quickly worsening headache, decreased alertness, confusion, vision problems, chest pain or discomfort, or shortness of breath. Xtandi can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during and 3 months after Xtandi. Common side effects include muscle and joint pain, feeling unusually tired, hot flashes, constipation, less appetite, diarrhea, high blood pressure, bleeding, falls, fractures, and headache. Talk to your doctor and visit Xtandi.com.
It's The Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
Welcome back, folks. This is The Roger Stone Show, and I am your host, Roger Stone, on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Joining me now is Mike Crispi. Mike Crispi is the host of Mike Crispi Unafraid, also a late-night show, Mike Crispi's Last Call. You can find both of those on Rumble. Mike is an outstanding conservative, was a candidate for Congress in the last elections, ran a very strong race. He's an outsider outside the New Jersey political establishment. You may remember him from Right Side Broadcasting, where he did a lot of very shrewd and erudite political analysis. He also covered live a number of President Donald Trump's rally. And today he is a leader in President Donald Trump's campaign in New Jersey, and he joins us now on The Roger Stone Show. Mike, welcome.
Roger, thank you for having me back. It is an honor, sir.
Mike, I know that you were very, very busy collecting the necessary legal signatures to get Donald Trump on the New Jersey primary ballot, even though Nikki Haley and Chris Christie and Ron DeSantis had dropped out of the race. There's still requirements to ensure that New Jersey elects its 9 or 10 delegates, the Republican National Convention, and you and the America First crew collected a record number of signatures. Tell me about how that went.
Yeah, Roger. Well, I got to tell you, people who say that New Jersey is a blue state are absolutely lying. This state has shown that President Trump, very much a America First Republican, is turning this state red. I mean, we had rallies all over the state of New Jersey for the 45th and 47th president, 15 rallies up and down the state, and no matter where we went, we had crowds of anywhere from 150 to 400 people at our events. And we were doing the rallies because we wanted to mobilize and activate support for the president within local communities. I'm talking get mayors, council people, school board members actively engaged and feeling like they were a part of the Trump movement to take back this state. And you mentioned with the petition efforts, every candidate, whether you're running for school board or whether you're running for president of the United States, you have to get petitions in order to qualify for the ballot. It's just New Jersey state law. And we wanted to set out as a group to deliver President Trump a statement that we could get the record amount of signatures for a candidate seeking the presidency in this state. So I'm pleased to report that that's exactly what we did. And when we turned in our petitions down in Trenton at the state capitol, we more than tripled Joe Biden's number. We tripled Joe Biden's number. So the Biden campaign got probably a little less than 3,000 signatures on the last day, and we had close to 9,000. So, our movement and our effort is very strong, and, people are saying, well, you got signatures, but guess what? All the latest polling now reflects that President Trump is very much within striking distance to win the Garden State, and we believe that, all the volunteers that we've activated along the way in this petition process, Roger, over 2,500 volunteers signed up to be part of our group now with Get Out the Vote, that's going to pay dividends and we're going to win the state and shock the world. But we're not going to be shocked because we knew that President Trump always had a hold on the great people in New Jersey.
Now, very recently, there was a federal court decision that knocked down the ability of the Democrat county committees to essentially offer this superior ballot position to the candidates that they endorse. It's called the line. It has traditionally been extraordinarily influential in Republican and Democrat primaries in New Jersey, because when you go into the voting booth, it says, for example, official Ocean County Republican County Committee endorsed candidate John Smith versus, challenger Joe Brown. The parties have really used the line to keep control, but now a federal judge has ruled that the lines violate the law, and he has vacated their use in the Democratic primary. Other Republicans have now gone to court to say, well, if that's true for one party, it must be true for two parties. This really, to my mind, it has very little to do with the Trump campaign. At this point, with Donald Trump as the only candidate for president still in the race, and with more than enough votes accumulated to lock up the nomination, the Republican Party establishment of New Jersey, which is largely country club oriented, well, they have no choice but to be for Donald Trump. Mike, what is this fight really about?
Well, first of all, the line, which has been around for a while, basically was struck down by the courts as unconstitutional. It was a way that the county bosses, and again, no America First Republicans like, deep state county bosses. These are people who have been loyal to Chris Christie. They still run the county committees in these respective counties across the state. And it was found in courts that the way that they did it was unconstitutional. It basically assured a bump for any local candidates that were attached to the line. And you know what they're doing with President Trump is that they basically, these county bosses want to get in swamp uniparty rhino members, they would then just stick that candidate on the line, try to put their name under President Trump's name to kind of fool the voters and make it feel like, that they were running, as part of Trump's campaign. Now, President Trump is the most popular Republican in the history of the state. He doesn't need any county lines. He doesn't need anything. He's going to get 99% of the vote no matter where you put him on the ballot. But in an effort by Chris Christie loyalists, to essentially drag up candidates who have no business being in office, they're going to try to put their name positioned with this line to help those candidates. And they do that by using President Trump's name. So there are still county bosses in the state of New Jersey who are loyal to Chris Christie. We've been making an effort to expose those people. President Trump is going to win the state of New Jersey with an overwhelming and historic margin, no matter where he is on the ballot. And the Trump name is the superior name in this party. It is his party, and anybody else on the line are then trying to use his name. So it's a great thing for America First Republicans. It hands power back to the people, and it stops the party bosses in the future from picking candidates and positioning them in a way on the ballot that essentially the court found gave a 15% bump to those local candidates. So, they put all the other candidates on the side of the ballot, and they put all the preferred candidates, whether rhinos or whoever they are, in a nice, orderly fashion, all lined up on the left first column. And they've been getting away with that for years. It's the only state in the union that does ballot positioning like this. It was ruled down by the courts, and they like it because it keeps the power. The county bosses are then able to sell the line to the highest bidder. They're able to get politicians to do what they want, because then if they don't do what they want, they will then kick them off the county line. It's the only state in the union, Roger. Very, 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 very pathetic how these people have clung to the power, and now the power is going back to the people, and they will be able to elect true grassroots leaders because nobody will have to go pay their homage to a party boss who's going to make demands out of them. This is great for MAGA patriots all over the state of New Jersey, and we're going to get real grassroots leaders elected in from the state house, local level on up, who support President Trump and the agenda, no matter what these Chris Christie loyal Rhino Party scum are saying, kicking and screaming to their own demise.
Mike, I have seen reports that Senator Robert Menendez, under serious criminal indictment on numerous charges, he and his wife, who is evidently not well, I see that he is threatening to run as an independent. That would presumably, at least, if true, might make it possible to elect a Republican U.S. Senator in New Jersey, which has not been the case since Clifford Case was elected in 1972. It's the last Republican to win statewide for a U.S. Senate seat. We saw this once before in 1970 when Senator Tom Dodd of Connecticut got jammed up in a corruption scandal, was dumped by the Connecticut Democratic Party, ran as an independent, therefore splitting the Democrat vote, allowed for the election of Senator Lowell P. Weicker Jr., a man who took more illegal campaign financing from Richard Nixon than any other candidate in the 1970 race, but then turned on Nixon in the Senate Watergate hearings. It's another long story. Do you think it is possible that Republicans could have a viable race for the U.S. Senate in New Jersey?
Well, I definitely think so. I mean, and obviously that is going to be attributed to President Trump. I mean, all of the polling data, and again, when it comes to polling data for Republican presidential candidates, it's very much out there now that in a three-way race, President Trump is within 5 points in the recent polling. Now, we all know that with the polls, they suppress the polls. So in reality, President Trump is probably even, if not up at this point. And I believe that in the state of New Jersey or any other state, any candidate who is running on the ballot under President Trump in these down ballot races are going to have a great and historic chance to get swept into office. So again, New Jersey is a state that is very much reeling from the illegal immigration crisis that's occurring. They're very much reeling from Joe Biden's horrific energy policies that are really robbing our country's wealth. And President Trump always says he gets back in office, those are the first two things he's going to do on day one. And that message resonates with any person in New Jersey, in the country, and that is why I believe, Roger, that if Menendez runs independent and he splits off a percentage of the vote, that no matter who the Senate candidate is for the Republican side, President Trump will very much sweep them into office like he has so many candidates over the last number of years across this country. And those people coming into office via President Trump, him getting back in office in 2025, January, that is how we're going to have a Trump majority, and that's the only thing that can save this country and the state of New Jersey especially.
So, Mike, I have to ask you this question. You ran an extraordinarily strong campaign for Congress in what turned out to be, in redistricting, the reddest district in the northeastern United States. It was a 26-plus Trump congressional district that comprised most of both Ocean and Monmouth County, almost all of which is here within our 77 WABC listening area. But you, I guess, have elected not to seek that seat again in this cycle. Are you ruling out ever running for the seat again?
Well, this cycle, obviously, it's all about President Trump. It's all about saving the republic, and the only man who could do that is 45th and 47th president. So I've, put all of my efforts to doing that, getting the word out, obviously being on the ground and activating, grassroots folks from all across the state, to get out the vote. We're going to ballot harvest. We're going to vote by mail. We're going to, be too big to rig, as the president likes to say. We're going to do that in New Jersey, and I look forward to doing that all over the state to help get a victory. But when it comes to the 4th District, people are always asking me, are you going to run again? You should run again. Now, again, when Chris Smith ran, he had the county line, and the judge ruled that that's a built-in, essentially 15 points off the top. So, you take that, you take the fact that we were an insurgent campaign, and nobody really knew about us at the time when I decided to run, with it being so close, with us getting, the second most primary votes in the New Jersey primary of any candidate anywhere in the state, the entire cycle. The only person who got more was Chris Smith, being outspent $2 million to $200,000. Again, we only ran for 4 months, didn't have time to, raise more money. I believe that when we decide to run for that seat in the future, it'll be a winner. It's a MAGA base. It's a base that wants their Second Amendment upheld. Obviously, the current representation votes against the Second Amendment. It's a district that wants the border secured. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Current representative is against that. It's a district that doesn't want endless foreign wars. It doesn't want us spending all of our money to Ukraine. The current representative is big on that. We want world peace. We want New Jersey to be prosperous economically. We want the country to have our stuff made in the USA. These are all things that are very basic America First values. And I think that we showed, Roger, in that election that, we have that message. We have the winning message. And I definitely, in the future, when the time is right, fully intend to stay in the mix, because I owe it to the great people who have done so much in Ocean and Monmouth County to support me. So, we'll be back in the future at the right time. And we're going to do it because it's what's needed to be done to save the country. And hopefully at that time, President Trump will be historically, back in office, turning things around, fixing the country. And I can do my part to support his agenda 110%. And that's exactly what District 4 needs.
Proof of the fact, Mike, that you claim, I think accurately, that New Jersey's actually going to be in play in this election was the announcement last week that the president is coming to Wildwood, New Jersey for one of his famous rallies. Tell us about that.
Yes, May 11th in Wildwood, New Jersey. That is South Jersey. That is one of the most southern points of the state, if you're not familiar. And listen, the way that the president is going to win New Jersey, it's a very simple formula. It's an exciting formula because we can all see it. The Democrats know it is coming. You dominate and run up the vote in South Jersey, which President Trump very well will do. The South Jersey demographic, that is his base. And then people from all over the state are going to come down there from North Jersey, from Central Jersey. And if we peel off just a percentage of those voters, 10%, 15%, who would have maybe went the other way, President Trump wins the state easily. So I think he picked a great location for the rally. There's going to be many people coming from all over the state of New Jersey, many local elected officials that we have met over the course of our rallies, and it's going to be a very big rally. I expect it to be even bigger than the last one he had in Wildwood when he was running in 2016, when he was the president in 2017, 2018. So it's going to be awesome, Roger, and I expect a giant crowd, and it's going to help him win the state.
You know, the last president of the United States to be elected, then be defeated for re-election in a disputed election in which some claim that election was stolen, but then to return again to a second term in the White House was Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland was kind of the last of the great conservative Democrats, but Grover Cleveland was actually born in Caldwell, New Jersey, and there's a museum there. His presidential museum is there. So, Mike, I would suggest that a great location for one of your future local campaign rallies would be the Caldwell, New Jersey birthplace of the last president to pull off what Donald Trump is about to pull off, and that is a return to the White House. The backdrop of politics is always very important, and all politics is local. What is the current view of New Jersey voters regarding Governor Phil Murphy, and is that going to play a role in this coming November election?
Well, I mean, the voters actually right now, it's amazing, especially the independent voters, became very angry with Phil Murphy when he tried to put his wife up to run for the United States Senate. The wife has no qualifications other than her advocacy for degenerate sexual curriculum in our New Jersey public schools. And even the Democrat primary voters rejected this and were appalled at the naked abuse of power, how Phil Murphy tried to, basically leverage people and strong-arm people, very much through this line process, Roger, to supporting his wife. So that has been rejected. Phil Murphy obviously has driven this state into the ground. He does nothing but wake up every day and think about how can he kill small businesses through taxes and regulations. And this is disgusting, but it's true, kill our wildlife off the shores. I mean, this guy is making shady deals with these, wind farm companies that he says is in the face of clean energy and it's good for the environment, but all it's doing is killing our wildlife and our whales. And it's just absolutely horrible the way that these people operate. So, people have become very enraged with Phil Murphy, and I believe that is going to play a factor because, this state, the most moved out of state in the union over here in New Jersey, most moved out of state, that the people who are left, they're saying, listen, they're robbing us of our culture. They're robbing us of a once great state that had a lot of pride. You're from Jersey. We got an edge. We have a certain brand and identity. And this guy, Phil Murphy, who comes from Massachusetts, isn't even one of us. This guy is attempting to make it look like something totally unrecognizable. So that's just going to boost the sentiment for President Trump. And, President Trump's message is the perfect counter to a guy like Phil Murphy, who is only worried about appealing to his elitist left-wing billionaire donors and not the working men and women. That's what Trump does. He brings in the working blue-collar union people in New Jersey who I believe are fed up with Phil Murphy, fed up with the state government in Trenton, and are going to come out in record numbers.
All right. If you're just tuning in, folks, we're still with Mike Crispi from the Trump campaign in New Jersey, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, folks. This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC Radio. We're wrapping up with Mike Crispi. Mike and I are both board members of the Italian American Civil Rights Organization. Mike, tell people online where they can go join that nonprofit organization that's fighting to preserve Italian culture and heritage.
Right, Roger. IACRL.org. IACRL.org, the Italian American Civil Rights League. We're doing great work, great advocacy. We're protecting our statues. We're protecting our culture. They want to take the pizza ovens out in New York. We're fighting against that. So, yes, Roger, Italian American, we stand for that, especially in this area with so many great, proud Italian Americans. We're always fighting for them, and it's great to have you on the board, and it's great to have so many hundreds, if not thousands at this point, of members who have signed up.
Okay, so again, IACRL.org. So folks, go ahead and check that out. Mike Crispy, you do 2 shows a day. That's a lot of work. Tell folks where they can see both your shows.
Yes, absolutely. Well, if you go to rumble.com/LFATV, broadcasting at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then if you go over to rumble.com/Crispy, CRISPI, 10 o'clock at night on Wednesdays, we have our last call show, late night style show. We had Roger on last week, a lot of fun. So we're broadcasting on Rumble. We got a lot of things to say because we got a lot of fake news out there, and we got to combat it, Roger, and save this country.
All right. I want to thank Mike Crispy, a New Jersey patriot, leader of the Trump campaign in New Jersey, for joining us on the Roger Stone Show today.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
This episode is brought to you by Hulu, presenting Paradise. Paradise is Hulu's critically acclaimed addictive drama series, starring Sterling K. Brown, Julianne Nicholson, and James Marsden. The Daily Beast calls Paradise your next TV obsession, and the New York Times says it's exhilarating in all the right ways. Paradise is for your Emmy consideration in all categories, including Outstanding Drama Series. For more information, visit fyc.hulu.com.
All right, folks, as I have promised throughout the show, I indicated that I am, as I think many know, half Italian, half Sicilian specifically, and half Hungarian. I'm very proud of my Hungarian heritage. My mother made the greatest stuffed cabbage of all time. So let's go through this recipe. I hope you had a chance to get something to write this down, but you set out an 8-quart kettle with a tight-fitting cover. You wipe it clean with a damp cloth, and you add 1/4 pound of beef short ribs. You place the ribs into the kettle with a half teaspoon of salt and enough water to cover it. Now, bringing quickly to a boiling point, you then skim foam from the liquid and discard. You reduce the heat, cover and simmer for 30 minutes, again skimming the foam as necessary. Meanwhile, remove and discard wilted outer leaves from a head of cabbage, rinse them, and cut them 1/2 from the core. You're going to need 2 medium-sized heads of cabbage. That's about 2 pounds apiece. Place the cabbage in a large bowl and cover with boiling water. Let that stand for 1 to 2 minutes. Now take the cabbage out of the water and drain it. One by one, carefully remove the leaves so they can be taken off easily, being very careful not to tear the leaves. Return the remainder of the cabbage to the water for 1 to 2 minutes and then repeat the process. Now remove a total of 18 to 20 leaves. It is from those you're going to make your cabbage rolls. Carefully trim down the thick, heavier parts of each leaf. Set those leaves aside and store the remainder of the cabbage in the refrigerator for use in other cooking. Now blend together 2 eggs, well beaten, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of paprika, 1/8 of a teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. Mix the egg mixture lightly and thoroughly, adding 1.5 pounds of ground lean beef, such as shoulder, 1/8 of a pound of ground smoked pork shoulder butt. You can get this from the local butcher. 1 small onion, which has been slivered. 1 1/4 cloves of garlic, which has been minced, and 1/4 cup of uncooked rice. You will combine all of that and simmer lightly. Now, to stuff the cabbage leaves, place on the center of each leaf about 1/4 of a cup of the meat mixture I just described. Roll each leaf, tucking the ends in towards the center. This is the toughest part, folks. I tried many times and failed to do this. Could never quite do it like my beloved mother. If desired, you can use toothpicks to hold the leaves together. She never did, but, well, I had to. Now, cover the ribs in the kettle with 1/2 of the contents of one number 2.5 size can of sauerkraut. That totally yields about 3.5 cups when the firmly packed sauerkraut and the juice is added. Lay the stuffed cabbage carefully on top of the layer of sauerkraut. Now cover the stuffed cabbage with all of the remaining sauerkraut and pour over the sauerkraut, and this is the key, 1 cup, just 1 cup, that's 8 ounces of tomato sauce. Now, the Polish add more tomato sauce, but this is a Hungarian recipe. You will then add water, enough to cover the contents in your pot. Bring the whole thing to a boil. Reduce the heat and cover it, simmering for about 2 hours. Now, remove the stuffed cabbage, sauerkraut, and short ribs with a slotted spoon into a large bowl. Keep this warm, but set it aside. Remove from the kettle end aside to cool the entire thing to lukewarm. Now, melt in a skillet 2 tablespoons of fat. Add the fat and cook until transparent, stirring that frequently. Now you need 1 1/4 tablespoons of finely chopped onion, and you thoroughly mix that blend as well. Add it to the pot and simmer for about another 20 minutes. And there you have 8 servings of the greatest Hungarian stuffed cabbage you have ever had in your life. So it's a long recipe, but folks, it is absolutely worth it. Good luck with those cabbage rolls. It's tough to tuck in the corners. This was among my dad's favorites. It is a proud part of my Hungarian American legacy. Again, I'm working on that 77 WABC cookbook. I spend a little bit of time on it every day. It's all the great recipes, Italian, Cuban recipes from my wife, Hungarian recipes from my family. Folks, you're going to love it, and it's coming soon. That's about it for us today on the Roger Stone Show, but don't go anywhere because my good friend Joe Piscopo, a great Italian American, will be right along with Sundays with Sinatra.